you very much. So as Americans are grappling with rising prices, President Biden is requesting more than $9 billion in more funding for the COVID response after extending the public health emergency for 60 days. Joining me now is former Reagan economist Art Laffer and National Taxpayers Executive Vice President Brandon Arnold. Good to see you, gentlemen. Thanks for being here. Forgive me for being a skeptic, Art Laffer, but when it comes to government spending, I'm always a skeptic. The word emergency, is that just being used as an excuse to spend more and grow the government more?
I think so. I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I'm sure they have a lot of surplus funds in the Build Back Better baby bill. They have a lot of extra funds that they have not spent. I'm sure they could take some of those funds and use it here. But no, this is a way of getting additional funds, and they like spending money, and that's what they're doing.
So what effect is it going to have on the economy?
Well, it's small compared to the other big things they've done. I mean, really small, but it's all bad. I mean, you look at government, government funds are a tax. You can't redistribute income from one group to another group without hurting the economy. And $9 billion is not the end-all, be-all of this world, but it is damaging to the economy, and it will hurt long-term economic growth. I'm not sure it should be looked at in a recession cyclical way, but the secular decline in the U.S. growth rate is really a serious problem, and this will add to that problem.
Now, Brandon, you're a lot braver than Art or me. You live inside the Beltway there, which I did. Actually, I grew up there. That's why I moved away from it. But we have a few weeks left of a lame duck Congress. And I'm just wondering, again, once the final check is put in the Republicans taking over leadership of the Congress, might the Democrats try to sneak more spending bills in before the gong rings in January?
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt about it. The $9 billion that you mentioned for COVID, that's the tip of the iceberg. Right behind that, of course, is $38 billion in additional funding for Ukraine. Right behind that is additional funding for disaster relief, primarily in Florida. That will be billions of dollars more. And, of course, Bernie Sanders is making this Hail Mary pass to raise the debt ceiling in this lame duck period, which could cost taxpayers an additional trillions and trillions of dollars down the road. So this could be one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, lame duck sessions of Congress ever.
Could the new Congress undo what the lame duck does?
Technically, yes, but we've really never seen that take place. What we're hoping for is some bipartisan agreement because, of course, there are going to be Republicans and Democrats in power finally in January. But we're hoping there's some sort of bipartisan agreement to put a brake on spending, some sort of spending caps or check on spending, because the $6 trillion that we pushed out the door due to the COVID emergency has been absolutely backbreaking. It has driven inflation through the roof. It's making, for instance, Thanksgiving possibly the most expensive Thanksgiving that our nation has ever experienced, and it's got to end.
Now, Art, Americans get what they vote for, and so they've got this current configuration, or they will have it, which means the Senate, we're going to be dealing with a Democrat Senate, so it's not a completely divided government between the executive and Congress, but it's close. So how much damage could still be done in terms of moving us closer to socialism with just a Democrat Senate and a Democrat executive?
Well, let me just say Brandon's comments are beautiful. They're right on target. And your thing is people deserve the governments they get, I think is the one you, David, that you want to say on that. Yeah, they could go along there. Now, the new Congress, I think it's the House Ways and Means Committee, is in charge of purse strings. So they may be able to hold back some of these by not providing the funding for those programs to be carried out. I don't know how far they can go with that. But when you look at the very skinny majority the Republicans probably will have in the House, there are probably enough Republicans that like big-time spending in there to make sure that they could never fail to get the money they need for these programs. So I would just sit there and say this is not going to be a revolutionary period of controlling spending. That's just not going to happen. You're going to see 2 years of, I think, unbridled spending and a worsening of the U.S. economy during this period. But hope springs eternal, and I hope Brandon's right that they will do a bipartisan agreement and put a ceiling on all this spending. But I doubt it very, very much.
Well, Brandon, it's unlikely that the war on fossil fuels is going to change any, though. I mean, the president is convinced that everything he's been doing is correct. He said so much after the election, and that means that he continue to stop all of the drilling and the leasing, where we've had these de minimis just measures taken towards progress, and a whole wealth of new regulations to stop any kind of new drilling. So looks like we're still going to have shortages of fossil fuels, right?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what Biden says was the beatings will continue until morale improves. So I do think we'll probably have higher energy prices for the foreseeable future. The one glimmer of hope, I'm going to try to be an optimist here. The one glimmer of hope is that promise that they made to Senator Manchin to do permitting reform. That can accelerate, of course, not just getting energy out of the ground, but also some transmission that we sorely need in this country to get energy from point A to point B. So that's the one glimmer of hope. But otherwise, this administration, of course, has been completely anti-domestic energy, and that costs taxpayers at the pump. It costs taxpayers when they're trying to heat their homes and maintain their livelihoods here.
Yeah, it may cost some people their lives, frankly, if they freeze to death this winter. We love your dark humor, though. Both Art and I got a chuckle out of that one. Thank you for being here. Brandon, Art,
yes,
Laffer,
I loved it.
Great to see you both. Well, Donald Trump launched